So with those templates in the background, I will change them. I've done most of them, but I thought I'll just do a bulk at the end as I'm concentrating on what's important. And anyways, let's get on with story. So this is a warehouse which is very similar to the Genesis version, and although the text is different, what I've done is added other missions or stories within the warehouse which implements the or pays homage to the Genesis edition, which I'm going to show you today. So let's go on with the story. The once stern architecture, now nothing more than a concave of derelict walls lathered in patchwork pattern. Lighting, although scarce, trickled in through a network of cavities littered across the thin sheets of the colour-bond steel roof. So just like the Genesis version, you can get a mission from Gunderson where you can farm the ghouls here for quite a lot of new yen. But just like the Genesis version, it is random spawn and you can get easily overwhelmed. So it's very dark, so you're not some of them are going to be able to catch you off guard, and you can get completely overwhelmed. So if you get too greedy, it's just like the Genesis version, you're going to get geeked before you know it. And my character, I should note, is a high level, so it's easy to just solo everything here. So this one is, I'm going to show you how it pays homage to the Genesis while also implementing a extra mission on top of the missions, as the warehouse has its own story. A body in the early stages of decomposition. Judging by his expression, he was still alive during the final moments of his own demise. There's something in his hand. A PDA, dry yet sticky. The crackling of bones echoed throughout the warehouse as he pried the PDA from the corpse's grip. It contained a journal entry as well as several messages. Alright, so this is the PDA, and I'm going to show you how I've slipped in homages to the Genesis edition. It all sounded like some far-fetched urban myth that had manifested itself from the bottom of the bottle down at the Banshee. That goddamn warehouse. Was it true what they say? Apparently ghouls tend to gather there, droves of them, waiting for some fresh meat. I don't know whether it was plain stupidity, maybe curiosity, or both. But one way or another, my crew and I was going to finally bring an end to the rumour. Entering the foul place, the first thing we noticed was a stench of rotten flesh, and although faint, we could also hear the sound of movement. It sounded eerily similar to the sound you'd make when walking barefoot on the kitchen tile. So the last paragraph and this one both contained lines, so anyone that's played the Genesis edition will recognise that. The ghouls just kept coming, droves of them, from every angle. We held our ground, however, and our morale was riding high on the coattails of adrenaline as the ghouls turned into inanimate bullet sponges. The boisterous demeanours of my crew came to grinding halt, however, once the walls began trembling from a menacing growl that didn't sound like anything we had ever heard before. Everyone was scared and doing a bad job of hiding it. Drek, hear it. So, you also can run into really nasty things in the warehouse, just like the Genesis edition. So, I've given a warning to players, and also maybe add some intrigue if they dare to risk it. But yeah, it's a warning that you're going to run into something nasty if you stick around here. And it's also random generated, but yeah. And there's other journal entries, but I don't want to spoil everything, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to show you how I've also implemented Snes missions and that. Oh, and let me show you one more thing. There will be unique class missions, so depending on what the player chooses, they will have their own So I've also put in things where you're gonna need to be high level to finish it. So a lot of places you visit, there'll be reasons to revisit it, as you might get something nice, or you want to explore and see what else is hidden here. And on top of that, I've also given class quests. So there's you're gonna find certain locations, but with this one isn't class specific, as if you have a rigger on your party, you can also access this. But I'm gonna show you how I've implemented. I'll give you a good example of a class quest next. Here we go. So just quickly, I'll quickly explain how some of my design choices. Originally, I was gonna do these big squares like Fallout 2, which you walk onto to move into the next place, but even through fog of war you could see it, which kind of ruins missions and other things and exploring. So what I've done is I've put an arrow, so if you see an arrow you just step onto it, or if you see a door you click on the door to move to another location. So you're going to see an arrow and you teleport into the next area. And I'll give you guys a quick showing of one of the class missions, and this one is to the Snes fans out there. So I have a strange feeling about those eyes. 7th generation cyber deck, now in keyboard side. So if you're a shaman, this dog will talk to you and you can get a mission paying homage to Snes. But if any other class, you won't be able to get it, and this is only for the player 1. So if you have a shaman on your team, it's not going to make a difference. So that way it gives people incentive to play with something different. And due to the sheer magnitude of me dreaming big and trying to create this UGC, I have scaled it down a fair bit and planned it out more. But with permission, I did get permission for a previous UGC, an very old one. If any of you guys remember A Life on a Limb, so Fall City is a combination of something I've read from a source book and looked up in US, and then if any of you guys remember Julio the Pimp, so he's gonna make a showing here. Slightly revised text, so name's Julio, pronounced with a H, not a J. Got that? I'll be big pimpin' with the Royal Reapers. As for all of these fine specimens, they're with me. If any of them tickles your fancy, Julio will fix you up in a jiffy. Know what I'm saying? As for the bar that's right behind me, that there be Finnegan's Way. So I'm going to show you the rendition of Finnegan's Way, and I'll show you the old rendition. And yeah, during the day we call it the Den, for Reaper members only, but when the night lights flood the streets, it's called 2XS, the place to be for those that just can't get enough of the good shit. So that's just a homage to the Nigel Finley, who wrote the book 2XS. So the bar itself is about excess of everything, so it's going to be its own story as well. So I don't want to go through too much and spoil that. So now I'll give you a good look at Finnegan's Wake. Yeah, that's a draft, so I'll fix that up later. As I said, I'm just gonna concentrate on what's important, and I've done a fair good amount of the meat and potatoes of the project so far, which is going very well. So this is Finnegan's Wake. You know, so you know there will be factions like the you're gonna have the Reapers and the Halloweeners in the Barons. So and Opify will be running this joint as well, just like the Snes edition, and you know you can get, depending on what missions you choose, you know, and on top of that you're gonna have, you know, just NPCs that just want to chat, and other ones that when you're investigating you might come here and you talk to the right person and you're gonna get some, you know, more information, a bit of the groundwork, which I feel is a very important part of Shadowrunning. You know, it's the whole noir aspect, detective work. And you're gonna have the bartender that sells drugs and alcohol, you know, so a bit of waste of money. So, you know, Shanda Evans shares a quick fetch quest, which is also from A Life from a Limb. So here and there you'll get quick easy quests you can do, which are optional, you know, and you can get a little bit of karma or money depending on how you tackle the quest. And quite a few locations you can access on foot, and others you'll need to catch various forms of transport such as a bus here. And you know, if you play Life on a Limb, you'll know there's a little bit of a story in the bus as well. So you know, you'll see quite a bit of text that's been modernized for how I wanted to write it. And next we're going to take a look at Intercity 5. Is Intercity 5, which connects to, as I said before, Old Town. So I'll give you a showing of what Old Town looks like. And there's certain story progression which will make things inaccessible. So you know, although I've got it in debug mode, so I can enter certain locations which a player won't be able to. So it's all about progression of the story. Anyways, let's read from the excerpt of Old Town. Forgotten by the sinners of society, Old Town is a decrepit hood dominated by Crank, Bliss and the Crimson Crush, an orc gang ruled by the king, who uses a car yard as his main base of operations. There, they provide the town with their own brand of neighborhood watch. As for the car yard itself, it is infamous for being as hard to get in as it is to get out, a haven for vagabonds, criminals, and the not so fortunate. Some say that you would be hard pressed to make any distinction between the car yards and a prison overrun by felons. So, car yards is a very memorable place from the Snes version, and just like Snes, I've tried to keep it as accurate as I could. And another design choice, some rooms you enter, what I've done is I post loaded, so when you first enter it, after the first time each time you've loaded the map, it will spawn some NPCs, so you won't be able to move for a few seconds. What I've done is I've done this to reduce the massive loading times. So as you see now once you can move, once you go back in, it's already loaded. So you know, a little bit of few seconds, you know, I've carefully handpicked what to load and preload to make it as smooth of a transition as possible. And this is the car yards. You know, just like the Genesis, you'll have new story of its own, while still paying homage to the old one. And of course, you will be able to come here to have the fighting tournament with the arena owner as well. So this is the arena itself, and I'll give you a quick tour of the rest of the Old Town. The story here is all done, although I do want to add some more NPCs to the outside to make it more livable, where this part is all I'm very happy with. And yes, the soundtrack will contain remakes of classics from both Genesis, Snes and many other things. You know, for anyone that loves video game music, I've put a very insane amount of time in asking for permission from some of my favorite let's say content creators that makes video game music remixes. So yeah, this is a Eric's Gun Store and Ahote's Talisman shop. So this one you only have to load one character, so it's very quick, and once you go in and out, you know, you won't even notice it. So this is the best if you want to make a city that has a lot of NPCs without massive load times like Dragonfall. This is the only method I could find, and it works. I found it very effective. Now another surprise for the Snes fans. For those that remember Ed's patch and fix. Later on, if you're a decker, you will need to come to this guy for a let's say little explosion mission. So that's one of the unique decker missions. And of course we got Old Town Station, so you'll be able to catch trains here for a very small price, and it'll tell you which location it goes to right here by catching the train. And then we've got another one on the other side for another location. This will be the public hub, which I'm going to Matrix hub, which I will make it run alongside 4th City Road as a double hub. So you can come in here, and there's certain things you can do to affect the other locations within the game, you know, which we give players a reason to explore. And like the Genesis version, what I've done is I've added RAM, which you can pay to increase. And so when you go on Matrix missions, sometimes you're going to find pay data, which takes a certain amount of megs, and the player will have to decide. There might be too much for the memory you have. They'll have to decide which one would net them more money. So, you know, it's a bit of a choice and consequence. You decide which one will net you the most money, and as you play the game, maybe you'll get a better understanding of what will net you more money. And so, say if you want to hack into the Coffin Motel in the Redmond Barrens to get cheap entry to get sleep for free, or cheaper entry or discount, you can hack into the nodes and break through the firewall. And you know, if you mess up, of course, you get attacked by IC, and you know, it would be much harder to break in next time. And the progression I've done is like the source book. So there's going to be red, blue, yellow, green, I think they are. So you're going to need higher skill levels to get through the yellow doors and so forth. And I think red was the highest. I can't remember off the top of my head, sorry. And I'm still working on this. So although I've added all the locations and mapping, you know, I've got to put a lot of NPCs. So the missions and the systems are all in place, but putting some nice conversations in and stuff, that's still I still have to work on that. So let's say it's about 30% done. But yeah, the mapping was to map this out was an insane amount of work. You know, it was ridiculous. Also, just like the Coffee Motel, you can also get a membership, a free membership card to get discounts at the Stuffer Shack. So, you know, it's gonna be the same. My idea is, so for people that go Deca, they're going to be able to do all these cool things, you know, to get discounts or get information, which will help on their missions or even get missions that others can't. However, the public matrix will be available if you have team members which are capable of hacking, but certain things will be only available to the main player. The Matrix, the gameplay I felt was very, you know, quite bland, and it mimics the normal combat too much. So what I've done is I've tried to add gimmicks, not gimmicks, but you know, you'll have some puzzles as well as real-time things, or you know, obstacles, and the water can electrocute you. So this is a mission I'm currently working on, so it's not complete, but you know, you get a basic idea of how it works. You know, you just look at the face, and when he gets angry, he's gonna shock the whole water around you, and you got to be on the platform to not get electrocuted. So you know, the Matrix missions, I'm gonna let my imagination run wild, and you know, I'm not really gonna stick to the lore too much, as you know, the engine they've created can be quite limiting, or it can be very painful to do a lot of things manually, or add, you know, really add new systems. So instead I've added things like this where to enhance the gameplay, just like my tracing mission, which I put a short video of. Regarding the other maps, my intro is completely finished. You know, I've got Red Barons, which is finished, and that's got 10 random missions, 4 random matrix missions, and it's got a few random encounters, just like the Genesis. And you know, say if you get pickpocketed, if you have you know, specific stats, you know, you'll be able to react. Otherwise, you lose Nguyen. So I've tried to make the way you build your character fit with the role playing, you know, of the world itself. You know, being that it's a very dog-eat-dog world. And after Barons, it goes into a main mission, two main missions, and then you'll go into a rulebook mission, which I'm going to show you now. In Old Town, I've got 3 missions and 1 mission for Intercity 5 for the first time you travel it before you can enter Old Town. And of course, you've got to do progress the story before you can enter the car yards and do the arena combat, which all the arena combat's already been finished, although balancing I will do right at the end once everything is finished. Yeah, I feel that's a I've done the basic of the stats in that, but for something like an arena, you know, to properly balance it with progression is quite difficult without knowing At the beginning, this will be one of the Shadowrunners, or will be the first Shadowrunners hideout, and you know there'll be a so thus far I've only gotten to create 8 joinable Shadowrunners, although you won't be able to have every single one in one playthrough. So you have this is the one behind me is Chopper, which is loosely based on Chopper Reed, and you'll have he's a street samurai orc, and you have a human mage by in the name of Cinder. So she will be from the nature tribes, so she's actually very new to the sprawls, so she'll be the kind of character that's very naive but at the same time powerful and loyal. And then we have Zip, so he's like the very tech geek that rarely leaves his room. As you can see, the sheer mess that is left, and you know they'll all depending on the different people you have on your team, they will interact in different ways, and some may or may not even like each other. Conjured Zip will be loosely based on hikikomoris, which is a Japanese term for these social outcasts that left society and just stay in their room. But once he joins your Shadowrunner team, he will experience the wild side of life, and the wild side of him will come out, and you know he will miss a lot of social cues and be that kind of person that's over enthusiastic even in the most dangerous of situations. Seemingly more flat and lackadaisical than his usual self, a muffled growl is about all he can muster. What do you want? Hungry? Fucking oath, I'm starved. Oi, skeleton, got anything to eat around here? So, Chopper is obviously Aussie, yet I'm an Aussie myself, so you know there's no way I was gonna pass up the chance of putting a Aussie with foul language that's, you know, extremely out there and, you know, very unique to the RPG world. I haven't really seen anyone represent that kind of text and personality. You could have one of these burgers, but I honestly don't know how long it's been sitting there. His metallic brows contract, forming a near uniform monobrow. I want some real tucker, not crumbs, alright mate? I could really go for a bite myself. It's a great equalizer. It'll stop a troll the size of a car as easily as a dwarf or the thinnest elf. It ain't a weapon, a spell, or even a dragon. It's hunger, and when the pang hits, there's only one place to go, Stuffer Shack. Zip's constant online presence means he's always up to date with the ongoings of the outside world. Word on the street is the shack is back in business. Let's go grab something from there. Sounds like a plan. A human who looks like he would weigh 46 kilograms if 46 kilograms of cement were attached to him flails his arm in your direction. With his fingers now folded to mimic the shape of a pistol, a menacing tone slips between a ghastly grin. A storm is coming, he says. No shit, Sherlock. When he goes, why don't you guys run along now before the storm gets ya? He he he. He he. enough, let's go inside already. And thus we have the first sourcebook mission, which I think, I'm not 100% sure if it is the most well-known one, but for me that hasn't played a whole lot of pen and paper, I've only played a few games, so I'm not really sure what the whole scene is like, but I have done a ton of research overall to try and get the feel and understanding of the world, and been a big fan of cyberpunk overall, reading many novels such as Neuromancer being one of my favorites, or the trilogy, the Spores trilogy. Anyways, let's get back to it. Great tracks of neon and fluorescent lights that leach away color to make everything a uniform dark grey indicate that you have arrived at the home of Synth Alcohol, Soy Calf, Porno Sim Chips, cheap fetish trinkets for the magical wannabes, soy grits, and a full line of stuffers with no redeeming nutritional or social value. Yep, the good old stuffer shack. Home to a smell you can't recognize and probably don't want to, and thousands of new yen worth of stomach rotting chow. As an added benefit, it's open 24/7, 365. It's pretty busy for this time of night, especially since the torrential rain you just ran through keeps normal people at home. So I've tried to, make everything, as accurate as I can. So you're gonna have, this is on debug, so things will happen faster, but you will have the guy talking here, and there will be 2 short missions where you get to learn the personality of your characters. And Chopper being my favorite character NPCs that I've written. So in between swallowing mouthful after mouthfuls of meat, Chopper manages to spare a few words. Mate, go. If I gathered all the yen I've spent here throughout my lifetime, I could have gotten myself a place in Bellevue easy. Don't get me started. Looks like we're both in the same boat. I know it's cheaper to go to the supermarket, but who can be fucked? Especially when there's a shack just around every corner. Plus, last thing you want to do when you get home from a run is cook. You know how to cook? No way. I ain't no chef in the kitchen, but when it comes to Barbies, I saw this can cook up a storm, chummer. He rubs the tips of his thumbs over the fin of his lighter, then lowers his cigarette towards the flame. A cloud of pungent smoke blankets the surrounding vicinity before dissipating into the air. Fuck off, nothing beats a dart after a good feed. It's like dessert. Suddenly, you feel 3 light taps on the shoulder of the blade, on the blade of your shoulder. Standing behind you now is a man that was lurking around the fruit section. As you turn to face him, he jerks his thumb towards the exit. This is no smoking area. Can you two please take that outside? Can you please direct me to the sign where it says I can't smoke in here, mate? Please don't make me repeat myself. Are you seriously asking the one customer who has devoted his whole life savings to keeping this joint running to stand outside in the rain? You heartless cunt. Don't call me a cunt. And yeah, of course you're gonna have stat checks, depending, and my design choice is if you don't meet the requirements you won't see it. So to me, I don't see why when you're talking to someone, just because you don't have the skill, it's gonna show you if you had this much stats you'd be able to get this information out of him. Instead, I've built it in a way where you just play the game, and if your character is built a certain way, he will very likely meet the requirement to get that extra conversation. So charisma, I apologize for the smoke, but look on the bright side. The more time spent in here, the more time there is to spend money. With a look of defeat, he lets out a long drawn out sigh. Fine, but I'd better not see you guys leave this place empty handed. Cheers, cunt. So I don't want to spoil too much, and I've tried to make the video as spoiler free as possible, but overall I would say I'm about, with life, personal life, work life, family life, and working on my backyard at the moment, planning and digging up everything. Just I also make videos about ancient civilization, so it's very difficult to just hammer it out and you get burnt out. But I would say, ideally, May next year I would like to release, which will probably be around 10 hours, maybe 12 or more, and that's ideally. But no matter what, I will have it released before my birthday next year, which is in June. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'm not too, and do apologize that I'm not too like I don't update and post videos all the time, but I always do put in a bit of work. It's just from the gamer side of things, it's talking about triggers and all that kind of stuff isn't really interesting. So anyways, I'll leave you guys to it. See you later. I nearly forgot, but in case if anyone was wondering, this UGC does contain what's it called, Samurai Street Catalog, as well as Unapticism and a few other cyberware, weapon, and spell mods. So expect a ton of spells, practically everything from the source book that's been created by other UGC creators. So there'll be plenty of goodies for people to buy and upgrade their runners. So you can see like the weapons, the cyberware. It's just insane the work that the community's put in. And then let's see some of the weapons. Oops. Yeah, so we got a ton of melee weapons from the community as well as HBS. So hopefully, for those that want to try, different builds and different weapons, or grind a little for money doing random missions and want to get a reward for it, there'll be something there for you to spend your new yen on.